Welcome to COVESTONE. This presentation covers purchase orders and transfers. Purchasing in COVESTONE is designed to be as automated as possible. In normal operations, you'll be spending a lot of your time working with suggested purchase orders rather than doing manual purchase orders. It is recommended that you run the suggested POs and transfers by line program at least twice a day. The program may take up to 40 minutes to finish, depending on your inventory size and number of branches. Normally run the program for all branches and today's date so that COVESTONE can factor in transfers in the purchasing recommendations. You can complete your purchase orders at any time. The program is just trying to give you a clearer picture of demand. Return transfers should only be done twice a year or at most once a month. These are branch surplus items that, according to demand calculations, need to be returned to the main supplying warehouse. A while after you have started the Suggested POs program, run the Suggested PO and Transfer report. The system will start generating purchase orders first, and then suggested transfers. Here is an example of the Suggested POs queue. Directs will show up first on the list since they are the most time sensitive. As POs are processed, they will drop off the suggested listing automatically. Regular purchase orders will show next in the listing. The chart feature will show you a simple graphic of the on-hand balance versus demand trends for that buy line on the suggested PO. Most of these fields are self-explanatory, but some less so. Items represents the number of unique line items that are on the order, and not quantity. Target is the minimum order amount needed to make the vendor freight allowance. Number negative represents the quantity currently overcommitted. Number greater than minimum is the suggested quantity above the minimum required. Short buy is the minimum buy required to meet current demand. Line buy is the optimal suggested buy to meet the freight target and product demand. Days is the projected day supply if the suggested line buy is done. Here's an example suggested purchase order. PIL is the projected inventory level, calculated as on-hand minus order demand plus quantity due in. The second PIL number in brackets represents the expected quantity left in stock after the demand is filled. Yellow highlighted items are the ones that you are short on, presumably a customer is waiting for. The yellow gets darker depending on how short you are. If for some reason you don't want to make your target amount, select Buy Need Now to generate a PO just for the things in yellow. You will miss your freight target though if you do so. Normally, purchase orders are sent by email directly from the system, although you can print them if you wish. The email defaults will be populated from the selected vendor record. You can attach a spreadsheet for estimating convenience. The possible stages of a purchase order. Suggested PO number is the starting point. Pending PO number means the suggested purchase order has been turned into a purchase order but has not been sent to the vendor yet. Request for quotation is a vendor quote. Submitted PO number has been sent to vendor for fulfillment. Confirm PO number means you have received an order confirmation number from the vendor. Suggested transfers show up last on the listing. Here is an example suggested transfer. The line summary allows you to quickly select out lines that you don't want to touch at this time. Selecting Order Suggested or editing and selecting Submit will start the transfer. After submission, the transfer order will show in the Warehouse Manage queue for pick and ship. Manual purchase orders. If needed, you can create purchase orders manually by selecting Enter Edit PO. If you create a manual purchase order, it is a good habit to add any suggested items to the order. Clicking Suggest on a manual purchase order will do a quick and dirty addition of suggested items for the buy line. This is not as sophisticated as a Suggest PO on transfers on all branches, since it only calculates what's needed for this branch to meet targets without considering transfers. Manual generation of a purchase order from within the sales order is not really necessary, but it is there as an option. As soon as the Ship Available action is selected, the item will already show up on the suggested PO and transfer queue. Make a habit of checking your open purchase order queue to check on the status of your orders. The normal receiving process is performed in the warehouse program with the warehouse personnel. Manual receiving only needs to be done to correct errors. Manual receiving is normally used to correct vendor price differences or alter the ordered versus the received quantity so that they are in balance. This example corrected an order quantity of 0 but a received quantity of 1. Do not delete items from the PO as it will mess up the receiving of the other items on the PO. Zero them out if necessary, but do not delete. Here is another correction example where 1 was ordered but 2 were received and the second one was never billed, essentially free. The Review Defective and Receiving Issues program is used in conjunction with manual receiving to correct issues. Here's an example of the review queue which shows flagged items and receiving issues. This queue should be checked every day and worked on so as to not create a backlog. In this example, we are accepting something received that we did not order and will be billed for. Accept into inventory is equivalent to changing the purchase order ordered quantity in manual receiving. Manual transfers. Manual transfers are pretty self-explanatory. There is no suggested option here though, as there is in manual purchase orders. Normal transfer receiving is done in the warehouse program. Manual transfer receiving is done to correct transfer errors. The manual transfer receiving would be used to correct imbalances between ordered and received quantities, like with manual receiving. Do not delete items or else it will mess things up. Zero them out if necessary, but do not alter the line items. Reviewing sales returns. This is used to manage sales returns that need further processing. Normally, a salesperson is allowed to start the return process, but someone else must make a decision to return to stock, scrap, or return to the vendor. Here's an example sales return where you can change the disposition and return, repair, or scrap as necessary. Inventory adjustment. Inventory adjustment should only be used for quick and dirty fixes since there is little to no accountability. Indicate defective or repair if relevant. In most cases, though, you should use the warehouse program cycle count and warehouse locations if you are doing normal quantity and location adjustments. Review inventory adjustments is used to manage sales returns that need further processing. Review and submit the changes as needed. Other general ledger accounts can be selected if appropriate. And this completes our presentation on purchasing and transfers. Thank you for your attention. This has been Doug Fashing.